Well, we've discussed common rhythmic patterns in various meters, but let's talk now about the actual notes that would make up these patterns. We're going to call them fills. Now, fills can be stationary, meaning that your hand doesn't really move much, or they can be runs. Now, there's four principles for fills. First one is this: they have to fit within the underlying harmonies. So basically, you have to play notes that fit in the chord. I'm going to mention a couple examples where you can go beyond the notated chords for a fill, but in general, the chords are going to dictate the notes that you can use. Two, you have to be rhythmically precise, generally. Fills are supposed to contribute to the sense of forward rhythmic motion. They're not supposed to hinder it. So you need to make sure that you fit the fill within the rhythmic grid of the beat and its subdivisions. Now, sometimes you can cheat on this a little bit on extended runs, and I'll talk about that. Third, you need to be tasteful, not busy. Now, this is really important. We've talked about this before. Don't feel like you have to fill every space with notes. In general, we could probably all play less than we do, especially when we're playing with other rhythmic instruments. Sometimes you need to just let the music breathe. So ask yourself, does this fill add something helpful to the music, or am I just playing it because I can? And the last principle is, you need to ask the question, is this a neutral fill, or is this a fill that goes somewhere? Neutral fills don't have a strong melodic feel. They're more like a guitar strum pattern, sort of like the one that I played earlier. But other fills have a melodic construction, and sometimes they're going to create a sense of progression and forward motion. So you need to decide which kind of fill that you want to use at any given time. Okay, let's talk about some fills, some different examples. The first and most obvious kind is that you can simply play broken chords in the right hand or the left hand. That just means breaking up the chord into patterns. So if I'm going to play if I'm given a C2, I can go. On the right hand, I could go. Or I could go. So that's the first kind. You can always just play broken chords. If I'm given an F chord, C chord, D minor, B flat, F, C, D minor, B flat. The next kind of fill is it's the 3-note and the 4-note straddle. What do I mean by a straddle? Well, take for example, in the key of C, if you're given a C chord, you can take your chord and you can group it. So. That would be an example of a 4-note straddle. You see, I'm straddling, I'm grouping 2 notes at a time. A 3-note straddle might be something like this. Now, your straddles can be stationary, or they can be running. So here's an example of a stationary straddle in F. If I'm going to play a stationary straddle in F. Now here's an example of a running straddle. You could play it strictly within the chord, or you could play kind of what I would call an overtone run. I might play that in the beginning of this, in the in the song "O Great God," the second half of the verse. So. See how I did that? I kind of call that an overtone run. Here's another example of a straddle. So let's take the opening to the song "Our Great God" by Fernando Ortega. It alternates between a C and a G minor 7. Now let me demonstrate. Here's an example of a 16th note stationary straddle. Eternal God, unchanging, mysterious and there's a lot of different, you could do that in all kinds of inversions, or you could go, or. Or you could also play, that was stationary, or you could play like what's called a running 8th straddle. You could play like this. Eternal God, unchanging, mysterious and unknown, your boundless love unfailing, in grace and mercy shown. And you see I didn't have to be really specific. I could alternate between a straight chord or that overtone thing, which is generally a combination of 6th, a 5th, a 3rd, a 4th. 6th, 5th, 3rd, 4th, 6th, 5th, 3rd, 4th, and it just covers these notes. So those are some examples of a straddle. Here's another kind of fill that you can do. That's with the stationary scale degree 5 or 1 on top. Now, do you remember the tutorial where we talked about voicing common tones? Well, this is that same kind of idea. You can keep the 5 or the 1 on top to create a fill with a static feel. So. So, we will stand as children of the dawn. So I just keep the 5 on top, or I could keep the 1 on top. So you can also do what's called run-ups and run-downs. So here's an example of a rundown on the 1, 1, 7, 5, 2. So let's take the key of G. Oh, worship the King. Oh, worship the King, all glorious above. How gratefully sing His wonderful love. So I wouldn't put that in a ton, but I could do that pretty much anywhere. You can also do the 4-3. Oh, worship the King, all glorious above. You see, it's that same kind of idea of it's the same shape chord as the 1, 2, 5, 7, 1. It's just built on a couple different notes, but same idea. In the key of C, it would be this. Oh, worship the King, all glorious above. examples of both, the 1-7-5-2 or the 4-3-1-5. You can also do a run up on the scale. Now this is not strictly rhythmic, you just have to start and end at the right time. So, so you can always run up on a scale. You generally want to reserve that, though, for times where this would be an example of a fill that has a lot of power, a lot of forward motion. There's a couple more kinds. You can do arpeggios on altered chords, like a sus2 and a sus4. This is going to be the most common when you're playing a 5 chord or a 5 sus. So I'm just going. Or you could play a sus2. Same notes. But this is an example of a C chord. A C chord on a sus2, you see, is exactly the same thing as a G chord on a sus4. So you can always use this kind of a feel. You can experiment with other kinds of arpeggios on altered chords. And also this as well doesn't have to be strictly rhythmic. Just like with the scale, you just want to start and end on time. Alright, so these are some basic fills. In the next video, I'll talk about a couple of other fills, especially some fills that really create strong melodic movement.